G'day YouTube viewer, g'day bikers. Just having a general chat today about how exciting it is in the motorcycle world at the moment, with bikes that may soon be released and bikes that have recently, and what I'm excited about. I'd also love to hear what you're looking forward to most, because that to me is what makes these videos. And as always, please leave your views in the comment section and interact with each other, because that to me is what this is all about, doing YouTube. Tapping into this wonderful biking community we have around the world, where we can all connect and interact with each other, which is pretty much the reason I produce videos. I like capturing my rides and sharing them with you, but also coming up with talking points that stimulate debate. Now, one thing I realise I don't do much on this channel is talk much about Ducatis, BMWs, Aprilias, Moto Guzzis and MV Augustas. And I want to make it clear I'm not anti any of those brands. I just haven't gone down that path. Apart from my Harley, all my bikes are Japanese, and I tend to gravitate towards them because that's what I rode as a teenager and then in my early 20s. But in quickly touching on those brands, I have to say one bike I do like the look of and would be very keen to exploring further is the new Monster from Ducati. I'm not a sports bike person, so as much as I love the look of Panigales and things like that, I'm always going to lean more towards naked and retros, which is why I also have a very fond spot for the Moto Guzzi V7. But if I go down that path, it will have to be an older one with dual clocks, because I don't like the single. And I should also mention now that in my next video we're going to be looking at a CF motorbike that a friend of mine just took delivery of and was keen to show it off on a recent ride I did with him. But for now, I've just jotted down a few points of things that excite me about what's happening in the world of motorcycling at the moment. And of course, Honda is about to release a new electric bike that sounds like it will be a good alternative to what has previously been available in the market for electric motorcycles, and one that I think will attract a lot of interest because it's been talked about for a couple of years now and had concepts displayed at the big motorcycle shows, is the Flying Flea is very close to hitting the market. And while on the subject of Royal Enfields, the other exciting news from that brand is that the 750s look like they'll be announced very soon, or at least one, which from what I understand looking at other YouTube channels is going to be a bigger bore version of the existing 650 twin, already in so many popular bikes from Royal Enfield. I think the first version is likely to be a Scrambler. Please correct me in the comments if I'm wrong on that. And the other very exciting news I only found out about today was that Triumph looks set to release a baby Bonneville based on the Speed 400. Of course, the brand is already getting a lot of attention in the UK and Europe for the new Tracker 400 and the 400XC Scrambler, which are getting a lot of good reviews. But a baby Bonneville with a similar design to the T100 and T120, that's got to be a good thing. And on the subject of Triumph, I'm also loving what I'm seeing from the reviews on the Trident 800, which is adding another wonderful triple alternative into the market that is relatively sporty but still very affordable, and also the upgrades to the Trident 660, which has gone from around 80 horsepower up to 94. I'm also very excited at the moment about the spate of mid-capacity Super Fours about to hit the market. Honda's CB500 Super Four, I think initially rolling out in Japan. We're not sure about where else it's going to go in the world, but I'm sure it will come to countries like the USA, Australia and the European market, because there is still a lot of interest in those screaming four-cylinder bikes that make their horsepower and torque right up high in the rev range. And there are also some coming out from Chinese brands that will provide more competition for the Kawasaki ZX4RR. It'll be really interesting to see how having around 4 to 6 mid-sized screaming Super Fours in the Western market. Would you be interested in one? To me, it takes me back to the mid to late 70s and even early 80s, where there were quite a few 4-cylinder bikes on the market. The many people who didn't want to buy a 750 and then later on a 1000cc 4-cylinder bike would gravitate towards. And just touching on a few other things that really excite me at the moment, I love seeing the release of that new Indian Chief Vintage with the 116 air-cool motor. That looked fantastic, and it's just the right style of bike to have that air-cooled engine in before they disappear. I know Indian and Harley are starting to gravitate towards the liquid-cool motors because of their better heat management and ability to meet ever-increasing emission standards. I also love the updates Kawasaki have done on the Z900RS, which now has more power, ride-by-wire, IMU, cruise control, quick shifter, and is said to have much better fueling, so a much smoother throttle. But I don't know if I can let go of my 2020 model with the brilliant yellow and green paint scheme. I think if I was to splash out and buy a 2026 model, I'd have to keep my existing one. But that would be very irresponsible and way out of the budget at the moment, so it's not likely to happen. And then, of course, the other good news recently was the Honda CRF300. So the CRF300L and the CRF300Rally with the better suspension that came out in 2025. Even though you've been able to get them in the USA and other places for around 12 months now, they haven't been readily available from dealers in Australia. And that's because I think they had a bit of a stockpile of the 2024 models and wanted to sell them before making them available here. But the good news is the Rally is now advertised on the website, so you can get the CRF300Rally 2024 model for just over $9,000, and now the 25 model, even though it's 2026, is listed on the website for just under $10,500. And it's great those bikes are starting to hit dealers. And one other bike that really excites me is the XSR 900, not the GP version, but the new Midnight Black in the naked model. With its gold rims and the gold Yamaha lettering on the tank, it looks absolutely brilliant. Been available here for at least 6 months now, and every time I see one in a showroom, it's all I can do not to put a deposit down. So there's some of the things I'm really happy and excited about seeing and looking forward to seeing on local streets and roads very soon. But I'd love to know what you're looking forward to. You know, I'm still really passionate about Honda releasing a CB500 with a single cylinder motor that is basically exactly the same as the CB350 I own, but a bigger bore and more horsepower. So if I do want a bit more performance, I could take the 500 out instead of the 350, and when Riding Hood gets confident enough to be doing lots of rides with me on the CB350, then I've got the CB500 to match. And I've noticed a couple of international YouTube channels in the last week have started to talk about that rumour heating up again. So let's hope at least at Eichmann this year, Honda do reveal that CB500, because they'll get a deposit from me like that. And in case you're wondering, just briefly, I haven't mentioned the CB1000F from Honda because they've never actually confirmed it will be coming to Australia, and there's been a delay with its international release, which has something to do with a recall on the Hornet 1000 it is based off. And as I've mentioned before, I'm not that keen on the fact, it being a retro-inspired bike, not having dual clocks. Now, if you would like to say what you're looking forward to most, or what you would like to see that's not currently available, please mention that in the comment section. And if there's a glaring miss I've made, something not included on my list today in this video, please let me know what that is. And if you enjoyed this little natter, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so before, so you can be alerted to future videos I post, and so more bikers like you get alerted to my content. Always love having you along for the ride, and until next time, happy motorcycling.